Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. After a couple weeks off from sawmill videos, let's do a little recap so we can all remember what we had going on. So we had a plain old WoodMizer LT10, manual everything. The Briggs & Stratton 10 horsepower just never had quite enough power to suit me. So we replaced it with a 13 horsepower Predator. With this came some challenges that we had to overcome of engaging the blade with the new motor because the old motor mount was kind of cheesy. We came up with a power feed system and the first sprocket was too slow. We had to recreate the entire winch frame to put a larger sprocket, but after that the feed speed is just about right. We got the power feed for the head height control working, and also came up with some little custom brackets and muffler for the motor. I may have had other things to do, but this project has been in the back of my mind the whole time, and I've really been scratching my head about how to remotely locate the control panel from the saw head, because I really didn't want to have to walk back and forth with the saw head. Now that seems petty, but if you figure 20 cuts in one log and you have to walk twice for each cut, it could eliminate a lot of fatigue at the end of the day if my control panel was stationary, where I could watch the saw and run it remotely and just have to walk around the sides of the back of the mill to flip logs or to clamp. I was stuck in a paradigm in my head of cable chain. That was the only thing I could come up with. And if you're not familiar with cable chain, it's this plastic hollow chain like material that wires, cables, hoses can run inside of, and it will lay out like a bridge and then roll back up. And it's very spendy, especially if you're going to get enough for a 20-foot sawmill. So I was watching a video one night of a head saw, an old circle type sawmill that had air dogs on it, and they had come up with a simple solution of having the compressor remotely located from the carriage. And this is pretty common on older sawmills for this type of system. And it just, the light bulb came on. That's the perfect simple way for me to solve this problem. Basically, we're going to make two arms that one will be located on the saw head, one will be located on the back of the track. They'll be connected in the middle, and they will pivot and swing back and forth together as the saw head travels. So I got my swivel pipes cut. This is what the arms are going to set in to pivot, and I'm going to use this short one to line up my washers, which will provide I'm going to put a washer on top of my pipe and a washer on my arm, which will give a point for it to set against and rotate. And I'm going to use this to line up the washer and get it square on the arm. So I picked up these little slugs that came out of some parts at work. These were in the scrap hopper, and I think they're going to work really nice. I plumbed up that end and then checked this end for level, and I think that'll make a really nice pivot point for the other rod to sit in here. I'm going to drill a hole through this and through the other rod, put a bolt in it. Alright, well that's cool. It supports itself. That's a good thing. Alright, so the loose ends that are left to tie up as far as fabrication, you remember this little box that we've got for our control panel, for all of our switches, pulse width modulators to sit in. I've got two pieces of pipe here, slip inside each other. A little bit looser than what I'd like, but that's okay. We're going to put a nut we're going to put a weld nut and a wing screw on it, and got a plate that fits the bottom of the box. It'll sit on top of this pipe at a nice angle. Probably going to shorten this up because I think I want my working height to be a little bit lower, and if one of my boys were running the saw, it would need to be lower for them. So probably shorten both of these pipes up, but I think that's where I want to put it, is right here on this corner, because I got good visibility of what's going on with the saw. And got to put my post for my other arm to mate with this arm that we already put on. I was afraid it was going to be a little bit too much weight on that pipe, and I was right. So went salvaging, found some formed up channel in an old farm shed. It's kind of rusty, but it'll be alright. This won't have any interference with the saw movement, but it's going to make my wire carrier in the back a whole lot stronger. So I was trying to come up with a way to line these arms up so that I could drill the hole in the end. And the only thing I could really come up with is to plumb them on two posts and swing them together in the middle. It ain't got to be perfect, but it needs to be close. I think it'll work. Finally getting this power feed put back together. We're just about to have this project wrapped up, with the exception of getting everything wired. Before I go off half-cocked and run all my wires through looms and get them fastened neatly to the carrier and everything wired up, and then find out something won't work, I want to do a little experiment and make sure that 10 gauge wire is heavy enough to carry the voltage as far as it has to go without too much of a voltage drop. So I got a long length of wire hooked up to the feed motor, and I've got everything hooked up here to this long wire. We're going to see if it runs, and I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on my wire and see if my wire is getting warm at all. Nothing got hot, nothing even got warm. So I think we're good to go. So I really am not a fan of supporting China by buying from Amazon, but sometimes it's just hard to find things locally. I found this pretty sweet, it's kind of like finger trap wire loom that I'm going to use to put all the wires in, from the alternator to the battery to the drive motors, and run it up and across and down to my control station. I've got 100 feet of 10 gauge wire, and I bought some pretty nice heat shrink connectors, and I've never had a really good crimping tool, and I finally broke down and bought a really good crimping tool. So this tool actually goes with these connectors. I'm a big fan of heat shrink. This stuff's supposed to have really good hot glue in it so it seals off the connections, and you can see it goes down on the front and it'll seal up on the back. So hopefully all the wiring on this thing should give many years of trouble-free service. Well, I had to make a Lowe's run. I read the manual on the Predator, and it recommends 4 gauge wire for running from the battery to the starter on it. So while I was at it, it wasn't that much more. I just bought enough wire to run power from the battery all the way back to the control panel. I'm still going to use what I had, the 10 gauge, to run the 2 motors up front, but I'm going to run 4 gauge back here so that I've got plenty of juice in the box. So I got my wires strung out across the floor here, and my idea for putting it in the loom is I doubled it because I don't know how long I need. So both pieces I doubled over and brought all 4 ends back here together. I'm going to electrical tape them together real good, and I'm going to try to feed this wire loom down the length of all 4 of them. Just putting some finishing touches on some wiring here. I thought I was just about done, and I made a boo-boo. I cut this wire too short and started raising the head up and just about pulled it in too. So had to lengthen the wire for the feed motor and get this wired up. I got to drill some holes in the box to mount some switches, and about got this project ready to throw some wood on here. So what I'm doing for the head height control, right now it has a 3-way switch, and I don't want that. I want to put momentary switches on it, like this, so I can mash up or down. I just want it to move as much as I mash it, so I don't have to flip with a switch. I'm still going to leave the speed control knob on here. But I'll probably leave it wide open most of the time, unless I find that it's too fast to dial it in on board thickness. So that's what we're doing here. So cutting this off, we're going to wire in those momentaries. I think we are just about ready to make some sawdust. It's about to get dark on me, but well, it's getting dark on me. Doesn't lend itself to filming good quality video, but you've seen everything work, and there will be videos of me sawing very soon. And hope you've enjoyed this series. Pretty much complete. A few loose ends to tie up, and we'll be sawing lumber. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.